Hello and welcome back to the Mayor's Update, our open forum with the city.
It's perfect. Way to go. I've got to ask you a question because I found one day this week, I was sitting there with two puppies in my lap and I couldn't get up.
Yeah.
And I was scrolling through the TV and I went to Rogers.
Mhm.
And there was Mayor's Update, right? And thank you, Rogers, for, of course, also showing what Grayden and I do once a week. I find I can't watch myself. How are you at that?
It depends. It really depends. Most of the time it's pretty awkward.
Well, when I was in Parliament, I would occasionally tune in to Question Period or something where I was up that day, and it would come on, and it's very short, so I'd watch it and critique myself. Don't wear that suit with that tie or that type of thing.
Yeah.
And but this is a half-hour show, and so it was hard. I did not end up watching all 30 minutes of it, but I wanted to see how we did, and I think, boy, we're a good act. We do okay.
Was it the Halloween episode last week?
Yes.
That was a good
episode.
Was
we went a mile a minute.
Yeah,
it was.
Well, I had to get off and meet up with Jess and Lily to go.
That's right, and
to get the candy.
Yes, and you came home with double the candy because you kept begging at every door that some for everybody.
As you do.
Okay. Yeah. No, of course,
it's for the whole family. Whole Halloween, isn't it?
I did not organize the candy part very well this year. There's very few children. It was downstairs in the lobby at the apartment, so we didn't have to have candy left over in our apartment. There was some small amount of candy left over here from Pumpkin Prowl, and so I did find a couple of little chocolate bars.
Yeah, and you guys got the good stuff too. They're like Snickers.
No, we did a good job here. That's great. I think the only thing left right now is Rockets. So anyway, which I actually like.
I quite enjoy Rockets.
But when there's only Rockets now, 3 Rockets and a Snickers.
Right.
Okay.
Fair enough. But what a great
what's up
Halloween.
This week? That really smoothly went. We're now into the 10-day period of Remembrance Days. I know that you were doing the Southwold Remembrance Day on Sunday. I was out there too. It's always one of my favorite ones to go to. One of my favorite authors, and I think we've discussed this in the past. Ted Barris was there, and he did the whole Great Escape piece and told us all how Canadian it truly was versus the Americans, and absolutely right. They don't know crap. No.
Wow.
Well, that's kind of what he said. I'm just
he did. He was like, "Are there any Americans in the audience?"
Yeah, because we're going to insult you. Right?
And I'm apologizing for that ahead of time.
Right.
Is what he said. Yeah.
No, agree. And so it was great. And I had just read that book this summer, or actually, I don't know what to call it anymore. I know we've discussed. I use Audible. Right. I use Audible books to
books
when
on
I'm
tape
driving.
It used to be, right?
Absolutely. So, what do you read an audiobook?
Listen.
Or do I just say I listened to his book this summer?
Listen to an audiobook version.
I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Anyway, couldn't have been better weather, couldn't have been a better crowd, and the work you and your team did on letting people see it.
I was so proud of our team.
Yeah, they did a great job.
And we spent it was 2 days setting up ahead of time. And shout out to Len Lynch, who organizes the majority of the stuff on behalf of Southwold. Phenomenal guy to work with. So I met up with Len on Friday, and we set up most of the stuff, and then we set up the rest of it on the Saturday, and then I prepped everything in the morning of Sunday.
Go first thing in the morning on Sunday.
And then we went live.
They do an incredible thing out there that doesn't happen everywhere we go on Remembrance Day, and no fault to other services. I'll be at Valley View this Friday, and that's always a nice little private, family-only kind of event too. Yep. Many of our veterans at Valley View, so it's always a very sentimental thing. But they recognize a soldier who was killed, the Silver Cross Mothers kind of thing. But the soldier they recognized this year actually died in the First World War, right? And it was they do quite a bit of research and do a very good presentation on it. Then, of course, you get Ted Barris talking about his version of one of his books, but certainly about Canadian military history.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you head outside to 2 different flyovers and the laying of the wreaths out there. Can't do better than that. It really was great.
They had children's choir.
Oh, yes, and the Southwold Children's Choir this year. And so I say, geez, when are we going to do in Flanders Field? Well, then that was their song, and what a great job of doing.
And they had a ukulele as a part of it.
a trumpet, a ukulele, and something else. Right?
It was very creative.
Excellent.
I was
excellent.
Yeah, it was a highlight.
So
for sure.
And we've got more to come this week, of course, at our memorial cenotaph on Saturday. Please come early. It will be a big crowd, regardless of weather. It always is. Try and park as far away as you can. If you're an able-bodied, walk in. Many of our veterans will try and park closer, and we'll have more of a difficulty getting there. Last year, even in a driving rain, we had a huge crowd there, and so look forward to it again this Saturday, and that will happen. I also did a neat event on Saturday night, which was Seniors Got Talent.
Cool.
Out at the Senior Center. Jeff Ray put it on as part of his Seniors magazine, but 10 great acts. I mean, we had singers, and we had guitar players, and we had a brass band, and a clown, and some show tunes from Chicago, and I mean, all the different acts it was incredibly good. I was one of the judges, along with Dave from My FM and Dee, who does blues music kind of shows. We had a great time. It was really a good time to be out there, and think this will not be an only. This will be the first annual that just occurred. So I think we'll see more of that.
Yeah. And just a reminder, everybody, this is an open forum. So if you have any questions for the mayor about the city and what's happening, let us know in the comments here, and we can answer them live. Or if we can't at the time, we'll look them up and answer them next week.
Well, and you'll see us staring at the screen sometimes strangely, because my eyesight is not near what it once was. And it's us trying to read those questions too, right? You would think the exceptional work that established media does, we could get bigger font, but no, I'm just kidding.
One day, bigger monitors.
That's what we need.
Like
is the big screen in here, and we could read it.
Absolutely.
In
about
about
the projector,
25 font from that far.
So there was a big council meeting yesterday. You went
through a lot of stuff. We did have a really a reasonably long council meeting, but we went through it. I'll cover some of it that we had this week. The first thing we did was a bit of a refresh on what we're doing on our strategic plan. So Taylor's done a great job of bringing all the information together, and our consulting firm has brought all of the information we gathered even as far back as the home show last year, because we asked people for input there. 3 public meetings that we've had, 1 virtual and 2 in person, the information that's come from there, and any other submissions others had. So that came to council last night. The discussion really was about, well, some of this stuff isn't municipal. It really isn't things that we believe we can influence a lot of things, and so we should. But we now have to, as a council, start kind of pulling this all together as to what is into short-term strategic planning, what is into medium-term strategic planning, and how will 10 years from now look based on some of the stuff we're doing. Recognizing, the strategic plan we did 4 years ago benefited us in even the Volkswagen plan. If we had not planned to put service industrial land together, we wouldn't have then been reached out to and said, we can do something bigger. So we want to be careful with our strategic plan and do the right things. Now, the other thing that happens when we ask people, hey, what would you like to see? Of course, we get those answers. And there's lots of things people would like to see, and a pool or a community center with volleyball courts or more walking trails are all the types of things that we've seen, and we'll need to look at in our strategic plan. How do we honor some of that, and how do we set it up to make it work within our budget? Now, we're also working on our budget. As we get there now, it looks like December 4th council meeting will likely be the first one with our budget in front of us. And in the past, there's been years past where in the last couple, where we passed the budget that night, or at least passed the capital part that night, went back the next night and did the rest. So there's a real putting together of that strategic plan for the long term, and then looking at 2024's budget with some thoughts of, okay, then what might be in 2025 and 2026.
And what's the rough budget again for the city?
Oh,
how many $1 million are you working with?
That's a really good question. I wish I could pull it right now. Well, let's just see. 500,000 is a 1% tax increase, right? So, but that has to do with where was it? And then if we go up, for every 500,000 spent, and this is going to be a tougher year. We have a lot of inflation this year, and I don't think there's anybody that would think we didn't, right? But we also have to plan for the growth of our city, and some of that is pre-spent. It's not waiting till it happens, like the size of our police force, or the types of fire trucks we'll now need to do what we need to do. And that also goes for how many snow plows, how many people do we have that do snow plowing, and so all of those get rolled up from departments into a budget. Now, we do use last year's kind of as the base model. It got us through last year, and it's great. So if we started there, where would we be if we added reasonable expenses when needed, or added reasonable personnel, full-time equivalent personnel, to where we are? Now, we know we've got some big things coming up. We've got a very large plant being built. It's going to need to have building permits approved by us. This would be the largest building permit anyone's ever seen around here, and maybe anywhere, right? Well, what does that take for new staff? What does that take to have people in it? So we've got a lot to do on budgeting. Also on Monday night, we looked at a number of residential and other growth, but certainly through our strategic plan, our community improvement plan, where we invest in people's ability to grow or to fix up apartments or fix up their downtown businesses. So we've had a few of those. A new amendment for the southwest corner of Wellington and Manor Road. Doug Terry's got a piece there that he's putting some stacked townhouses on. And so it had been at a public meeting. It came back for zoning approval this week, so we did that. There's some other townhouses being built at 125 Centennial. That's at Centennial in Wellington. Again, a bit of an empty lot, or a lot with one house on it that's got room to build more townhomes and some density.
And I've heard with our community, like other communities, they're having issues getting these permits issued.
Yes.
Whereas in St. Thomas, they come in, you guys look at them, sort them out, and get them out the door again.
Well, we have a committee of adjustment that kind of looks at them first. Is this a minor variance? Is this a variance that needs to be, how will it be treated? So the committee of adjustment, which is citizens of St. Thomas on that committee, will look at it first. And then hopefully the proponent is at our planning department at the same time with, here's what our building looks like. Or we also do something here in St. Thomas on much building where it's called kind of a pre-meeting. So somebody who's got a piece of land and wants to build something on it comes on in downstairs, talks to our planning department and says, I don't want approval or disapproval tonight, but here's what I think it would look like. It would be this shape, this size, this height, this many units. And we want to put it here. And then we can check with them right on there in the pre-meeting that, yes, it's zoned all right to have that building, or no, it's not. We're going to have to ask for a zoning change. The size you're asking for works, but the number of parking spots you're asking for may not be enough. So let's look back and can we do something like that? So the pre-meeting really solves a whole lot that other communities are kind of afraid to do. So by the time somebody brings us a full plan for approval at planning, we've probably seen it a couple of times and actually told them, why don't you make this change? Or if you want to make this change, and or if not, we'll go back and ask for a zoning change to make some of this stuff work. So it's one of the things from a planning control that we do in the community. And you're right, we're hearing from other builders. When they come to St. Thomas, they're pretty pleased at how easy it is to get this done, and how in some other communities it is a lot longer to get some approvals. Well, we need the housing. We want it moved on. So let's make sure.
Yeah. Right. We've got a question in from my mother, actually.
Okay, great.
And she's saying, who is responsible for maintenance of the railroad crossing on Centennial north of Talbot?
Yes.
It has become very rough, especially on the southbound side.
Absolutely. And we've been asking and asking. Certainly our engineering department, roads department, is responsible for asking CN for the repairs.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also because that piece of Centennial is Highway 3,
Mm-hmm.
it's a provincial, and therefore it makes it the county's responsibility, the roadway itself. You remember last year, I think some telephone poles or some utility poles blew down there, and we had to close that road for a while. But that's, again, wasn't us. So we've asked, and I checked with our engineer Kevin Delabec this week or last week on it. When are we getting this done? Because I said it is, and you're absolutely right. It is a terrible bump. It's not in good shape.
The whole thing rattles, like the railroad,
the
rail
itself
right, goes all over the place.
But then there's also the mix, and I'm not making excuses because we want to get it done. And I came up with a unique plan that may make this happen faster. Is Ontario Southern, the secondary railroad, uses the CN line there, and so they have a responsibility to help us fix that too. Mm-hmm. And sometimes in the repair, it may stop rail traffic as much as it stops road traffic, and they have to plan around that too. Mm-hmm. The last I'd heard is it's imminent. We're about to try and do the repairs, but we did them maybe not 2 years ago. We replayed that rail at that exact same spot. And just the amount of rail traffic and what's going over it and what the base is like under it allows it to rattle loose. And so we'd like it done a little bit more. But here's the bad news, folks. The minute we get the railway approval to do it and start the project, Centennial will be closed for 5 days.
5 days.
In order to rip up enough pavement around it, put a better base underneath, relay the rails and the ties underneath that spot, and then fill it back in and put the paving back on. That's the estimation. Now, maybe we can do one side of that road and then another side of the road and do, but that's what we're checking on now is how hard will that be to do. So again, City of St. Thomas involved because it's inside our borders, but less involved because it's a national railway, a provincial highway, and half of that road, one side of it, truly is still Central Elgin. Right? So a lot of moving parts.
Yeah. And but point of interest as well is like there's a person who thought that there's certain symbols that some people spray paint onto these intersections to try and get them repaired faster. Hasn't worked.
No,
just for the record.
Yeah, no, we laugh at. But one of the ideas I had, I said to Kevin, I said it's dangerous. I've gone over that. And you cannot go over it fast. Yeah. Right. I said I know many of our rural rail crossings that aren't in the city of St. Thomas, whether it's on say Ron McNeil or further out, have a stop sign. So if we put a stop sign up to slow people down to cross that before it's being repaired, it may slow people down and not let them drive at 80 kilometers an hour and hurt their car. So that's part of the piece. Yeah.
Yep. And then Margaret Knight is saying the Burwell Road railway crossing as well.
Yeah, I just came by it today. I didn't notice that it was exceptionally rough or anything, but I'll go look at it again. I mean, look, they're both very busy rail crossings, and so I will look. Right, the Centennial one and a number of the out of town ones have been the ones I've been getting a lot more noise on.
Yeah, well, there's the one on Ron McNeil right by Harris Flower Farms.
Yes, exactly.
And that, I go over that one a lot, and it's like I know if you go too far to the right, it'll actually rip your tire apart.
You've got a real rough spot over there. Well, as long as you know where you're going. I guess.
Oh yeah, you just kind of like the people that have gone over it because you see them shift. They're going, they're traveling east, and they shift all the way over.
Right. Well, here's another one. Although Ron McNeil line is a county road, right? It's in Central Elgin, that whole crossing, and it's a county road, and we have to then coordinate with the railway as to the owners of the roads, in that case, Central Elgin and the county, have to coordinate when the railway can at least slow down the rail traffic for whatever number of days in order to fix the crossing. So that's the answer with rail crossings. I wish there was a more permanent solution because some of these come back pretty bad and pretty quickly.
Yeah, and then people are always they're curious, like, who do I like talk to try and get it fixed? Do I talk to my municipality? Do I talk
Yeah,
directly to
start with
CN?
customer service here. And I
Yeah,
think our customer service people probably get enough calls that they'll say, this is a CN and county problem and a
yeah,
provincial, but at least you'll get the right answer.
and you'll
But
know
we
who.
also do pass it on and
Mhm.
say, we've had more complaints and how are we doing on getting to the repair part, right?
Yeah, and Faye Gallagher is also saying, I hope those tracks are fixed soon. My bones just shake, rattle, and roll.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's there, um, and not being smart. Go slower over the crossing and it will be less of a bump. That's truly, especially that Centennial one.
As frustrating as
Well,
that is.
it went, yeah, it damaged my car when I went
Mhm.
over it at the speed limit. Yeah, okay, but it is a railway crossing. The fact that you're hitting it in that road's case is 70, I think.
Some, yeah,
Right? So
67.
yeah.
Yeah. Dale Cummings says there's nothing wrong with the Burwell Road tracks. I travel the road daily.
Okay, well, there is 2 sets of tracks on Burwell, but I said I came that way today. It was at the vets with the puppies, and that was the road I took home, and I don't remember it being too much. There's also in town a number of apartment buildings being built as part of what we discussed here, and you've all seen the cranes in the air, and we're really moving along. There's public meetings coming up about site plan control, about the old PUC building, a 5-story apartment building with 82 residential units on Highview Drive, a 24-unit townhouse development at Wellington and Manor Road. 118 Center Street has got a meeting before the Site Plan Control Committee, as does 4 Pearl Street West, which is a 23-unit senior residence.
Fantastic.
Right, so there's lots of things you see first at site plan control. What else did we do? We talked about the grass cutting at the Centennial Road and Elm Street roundabout. Remember the new roundabout, the new big roundabout that really solved a bad four-way stop or 2-way stop corner.
Yeah.
Right? But they've naturalized it, and a lot of bushes and grass have grown in the middle of it.
Was that planned?
Yes. Exactly, and that when we went and asked the county and Central Elgin, it's not ours to cut, right? It's not in St. Thomas at that corner, and they said no. That's naturalization. The other thing that we see a lot, you and I have discussed this on Mayor's Update before. You're not to be looking across a roundabout, right? Yeah. Look to your left. That's where the traffic's going to come from. And I've had many people say, yeah, but I want to see what cars are coming onto the roundabout. No, by then, you've either entered or exited. You've maybe come to a stop, right? Yeah. So the cars coming across from you are not who you need to see. And so that's why we've put some good artwork and stuff in the middle of our roundabouts, because the visibility needs to be to the left, right? Right.
Yeah, Faye Gallagher is saying, "Stop it! I go 5 miles an hour over those."
Yeah, it's probably right for now. Till you see the repair team, it's what I would do. We passed all of the new water rates and sewer rates for the city of St. Thomas at council on Monday night. We discussed them a week ago, and they're, again, not zero, but there are some fairly decent water rates and sewer rates being added to your water bills. We also had a report from the Drinking Water Quality Management System Review. We have our system reviewed each year by the province, and we had a couple of things. One thing, it was a reporting thing of we did not have a report in, and we asked the chief engineer, what was this? This says we failed in one section of the drinking water thing. He said, yes, the report needs to be in 120 days, and we apologize. This year was on the 122nd day that the report was in, and we'll make sure that doesn't happen again. So that's how thorough that piece is. Let's see what else we got.
We got a comment in from Dale Cummings as well about the ADD warehouse.
Yes.
Going up fairly quickly. And that, if you don't know, it's over on Burwell and Talbot.
Burwell and Talbot, yep.
And that corner is going to look so different when it is
finished.
I
watched them put some and it's going up. It's got modular pieces that are being, and a whole wall went up today while I was kind of sitting there watching it happen. So,
I've never seen a building go up so fast.
no, it's great. Warehouses are pretty easy. They're not there's not water needed in every wall or electricity needed in every wall, much like it's all inside conduit stuff. So, but way to go. They're doing a good job of getting that piece done. That ADD warehouse is in Prestrand, or both that building. And so way to go. Excellent work. All right. We passed a couple of other things at council on jumbo lightings. Jumbo, we lit up purple on November 17th for World Premature Day. I'm not sure that didn't come to us early. No, I'm just kidding. Premature, bad. Stomach Cancer Awareness Day, a jumbo lighting. We took a petition from the neighbors here on the St. Catharines and Kane Street roundabout, and sent it back to our engineering department to have more conversation with the neighborhood as to whether what we're planning works or doesn't work, and that will come back to council as a report. Some overnight parking requests are starting to come in where you must have a permit, of course, by November 15th. There's no overnight parking, right, on our city streets unless you have an overnight exemption permit. Now, here's the rules, folks. If you have a driveway that can park 2 cars, you're not getting a permit. And on many roads, you can't get a permit anyway, so your permit may be for a side street near you, right? But we've had cases where somebody's turned their garage into a rec room or a gym or a man cave, and then said, well, I only have 1 parking spot left. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I guess you're down to 1 car. You knew what size your driveway was when you purchased the house. I don't mean to be facetious, but the reason for the parking permits or the no parking after November 15th, I think, is obvious. It's so that the snowplows can actually clear the roads in the winter, and that's what that's for. But there is permits available if indeed you have less than 1 or only 1 parking spot. If you have 2, you were going to say you have enough. I would think there wouldn't be anybody who knew when they bought a house or rented a house what size the driveway was. So you would know what you're facing there. So we're talking about those. We talked more about the class environmental assessment of the new Highway 3 between Centennial and Yarmouth Road across the bottom of the new industrial park. And then a bunch of other Catfish Creek Conservation Authority has asked us to participate in their 10-year strategic plan. So I know the city will, but we're asking others that are watching tonight, know enough that you want to do that too. And just some other neat applications. The clay oven, which most people visited the opening, and I've yet to get there, but their application for liquor license has now passed our council, so that will move on now too. From other things on unfinished business, we talked about what's coming up on Remembrance Day, of course. Last Friday, I spent the day in Vaughan, or the morning in Vaughan, with Mayor Del Duca from Vaughan and a number of other mayors from across Ontario called the Automotive Mayors. So we meet to talk, all of us that have automotive industries in our community, about what we can do and how we can better together deal with the provincial government. And then we have a budget presentation coming up this Thursday. The Minister of Finance for Ontario, in preparation for next year's budget, every year visits somewhere in the neighborhood, and we go out and come up with a whole list of things we wanted to share with the minister, so that they can be in his budget as a priority if indeed he gets enough others. And we've talked about deliverable on affordable and supportive housing, enhancing mental health and addiction supports, many of the things we talk about on this show
every week.
Support of brownfield remediation, support of improved school board and municipal relations. We're growing exponentially. We want to make sure we're having good conversations with our school board, and then support of capital funding to expand the early years system, daycare centers, and that type of thing. So those are the pieces that we will talk to the minister about on Thursday when he comes to visit, or be able to give that information to them. And I think that's pretty much all that we talked about this week. There's more for next week, a pretty big agenda for next week's council too.
And we're coming right to the end of our time. I'm going to fit in the final question here, which is from Dale. They should move Jumbo to the spot where Sutherland Press used to go, even if the city had to fundraise for it. Bring more visitors right downtown. Well, the thing is, like, we've talked about it before, and the reality is the businesses where Jumbo is, they don't want it to move.
No, they like it there, right? And we're not certain Jumbo could survive a move without us having to remake Jumbo. It is pretty solid where it sits, but if you start taking things like that, those of you that have seen the film, Jumbo came without legs and ended up being put two pieces. So it'll be a good argument in town about whether we'll ever move Jumbo. And one of the lines in Dale's piece is, even if the city had to fundraise, well, if you want it, it's not the city that will fundraise. It will be a community group that says this is worth our while, so we'll go out and fundraise, and the city then would pay the difference, if you will. That's how we built arenas. It's how we built One Password Park. Is we took the fundraising that came in, or where we're faced right now with our hospice doing a great deal of fundraising, and the city is also participating. So we'll continue to do that.
Very good. Well, thanks again. We had a great viewership tonight. Really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks to everyone who participated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for joining us each week.
Yeah.
And thanks to all our sponsors.
See you again next week.
You betcha. Catch you on the flip side, guys.